What's poppin'? Welcome back to EGFC CSGO. I'm Los, joined by Tyler, and we're Tyler Viking Schroet. Never said his last name before, but you know what? We're doing it today. We're about to kick off our second series of the night. It's gonna be Siena College versus University of South Alabama, one of my preferred teams within this league. How are you feeling about this matchup we're about to jump into, Viking?
I'm excited. I mean, the last time that we saw these two teams face off against one another was all the way back in week 3 during the fall split. And it was, I think, one of the closest matches that we have seen in the entire season so far, with both teams taking a map and a total round difference of just 2. With all of that being said, USA has also seen a pretty steady improvement of their overall quality as we've been talking to them as they've come in a couple times, describing, how their new coaching philosophy is coming together, the practice they're putting in, and everything that is ultimately given them the success that they've seen so far. That being said, we haven't necessarily seen that success start to play out on the standings board, with them currently in 8th place, with Siena much, much further ahead. So this is one of those maps that are really critical for them to start bringing that back into Crispy, able to open up
Oh,
the kills, making this a little bit less of a man advantage, or sorry, giving them a man advantage, but Siena just walking on a site anyways and getting that bomb down. So now we're going to see if Loki and the remaining gang are able to maintain this site and ultimately walk away with that first round victory.
might be able to get it done, but they're going to start to need fragging now. Pango with 2. Reloading, though, does cost them a bit of damage, but they're going to hold steady, actually, with 4 right now to get things popping. Lapizio, the last one standing. They're actually going to try and hand that ace over to Pango. Not going to happen, though. There won't be enough time for him to get down to the bomb, but might be able to scrounge up a few headshots before Loki takes him down.
And just before the bomb explodes, the round ends. So the Siena side able to walk away with 3 players and a bomb plant. So we're going to see some of the higher level buys come out. We see Gray on the AK with Loki on the P90. Some classic, put as many bullet down range guns as possible with your standard SMGs. And you see this start of the aggression towards the B site, which it doesn't look like USA is quite prepared for yet. But they do have 4 players on site.
Ooh, and the MAC-10s are spitting right now. Crane, the only one to get a frag here, and leaving Lapizio all alone before a flurry of SMG bullets. That will be the second round there for Siena. Quick work and exactly what we'd expect on the anti-eco. But Viking, there is one player that I'd like to point out, a personal favorite, a fan favorite, I would say, coming out from University of South Alabama. It was Tiny T. No longer there on this roster, taking a gap semester, but it still doesn't mean University of South Alabama is going to take an L with ease. They're here to fight, and they have had some moments to pop off.
I'm really curious to see how they ultimately adjust to that, because we've seen multiple times, and ultimately one I think you're hard over was how impactful Tiny T can be, even in the maps that weren't particularly close for USA. Still a lot of efforts. The USA coming back in their first gun round. Xpoth and Crane able to take down
Oh,
3 of the Siena players. And OCU walking into that site, while we see Gray trying to flank from long. Whether or not that's going to be successful is critical to see where that is. Gray takes off Crane's heads and sets them up for a reasonable attempt at the A site, but with the rest of USA now being aware of what's going on, we see the rotating coming in, although we see a little bit of a hesitation from Soju, understanding that there still could be a rotation. But this became much more even, much more quickly.
Lopezio taking a flashbang to the face. Has to back off from the angle from long, but knows they're coming from him. Lopezio gets one, looking for a second. Will be Gray. They have to force out and grab that bomb. It's out of their range. Unlucky. They're waiting for Jacrispy to show their face, but the stalling is going to allow Soju to go in for that flank, and all 3 of them will hold on to their lives and their rifles.
That hesitation from Soju before he rotated ultimately ended up being a great decision. Not that there was a lot of opportunity for Gray there to ultimately clutch that 1v3, but certainly that made a huge difference in making that a very clean end to the round. So now, with USA getting their first round on the board, they are also at a slight gun advantage, just just slightly so, able to come out and take take Wizard out through Jacrispy, and now everybody else that was looking towards that B site is rethinking that strategy.
Low key. Looking to create some space, take some real estate on this side of the map as they make their way into long. Multiple players down mid. Not expecting much, as there isn't any information gained here. But if we have Loki walk all the way up long, they may be able to get a crazy angle onto some players in toilets. Double check, a quick check from that player, resulting in nothing at this point. It's going to be a slow play for Siena.
And Crane seems to have maybe sussed that that's out, but only taking a quick peek seems to have completely missed him. But now they must have seen each other at this point, looking at that mini map. Right? No, apparently not. Loki already gets all the way up to site, gets two, completely opens up the A site. But Lepizio already rotating into bank. Is he gonna know? Doesn't matter because Pango's already taking out Soju, making this a 3v2. Lepizio able to take out Loki, and so now it's a fight for the B site with Jacrispy able to take out the first one and the bomb. Lepizio now trying his best to win this 1v2, but with the bomb down, he's starting to run out of time.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest factor of this round. Cause some mistakes if the pressure is too great. A smoke, maybe. A smoke to keep their eyes off, and should be able to try and get this defusal if it even matters. Both the players not allowing themselves to be caught out. Lepizio jumping onto the bomb. Might be able to get the defusal, and
no.
they get it!
Oh man, those smokes are such a great tool for that end of round. That was an excellent, excellent way to do that. And Gray just not being quite aware of where the bomb was planted ultimately just sprays into nothingness, and therefore the bomb ultimately able to be defused by USA, picking up their second round and the equalizer. So already so early in this half, a very, very competitive match, just as we would have expected to see based on that first matchup.
Lepizio throwing out the Uno reverse card, says, no, you. I'm not going to go hunt for you. You're going to have to hunt for me on the defusal. And a great way to close it out because it seemed like a otherwise hopeless scenario. Loki with the opener. Crane out there with the op reversal.
Curiously, Siena has opted for both Pango and OCU to have scouts, and they have done some damage with that previously. But considering just kind of the, I don't know, the general approach to this map, it seems a little aggressive, although it looks like OCU is opting for the AK. Smartly so, while they continue to commit that scout towards the A site. Still pretty conservative overall, but Lepizio able to take Wizard because he tries to push out onto B site. Ray able to ultimately take out Soju, get a little bit more presence there, but the team is still split, and both Pango and OCU now towards the A site with the bomb, maybe getting the opportunity to create that opening, and the 1v1.
Oh, the spray's not good. They get a lot of damage into both Pango and OCU.
Oh no, it's two missed shots.
Whiffs the shot, but it is okay. They do have plenty of time, and there is the redemption kill. Last player over on long. I don't think they're ready for the swing just yet. They turn the corner. It might be an op kill, but it isn't. They hold on to it, and Lepizio sticks the defuse. They win their next round, their third round against Siena.
I like that approach from Siena overall. I mean, obviously, you hope that they do a little bit more damage in their respective sites, but that was a pretty good split of attention. And with just a slight difference in timing, they would have been able to exploit the fact that there was only one player on the B site before that, or sorry, on the A site before that rotation came in from B. So unfortunately, just missing the timing a little bit, able to survive on the USA front, the few missed shots that they had. Ultimately puts them up ahead of it, and so now Siena on a pretty low budget approach, able to take out one, but ultimately at the cost of a USP and Xboth getting cleaned up by OCU. So suddenly the op is now in the hands of Siena, and with a player like OCU on it, this could be pretty dangerous.
That was a big mistake, Viking. That was played way too close for comfort. And especially when they're on a save, when they don't have the cash to pull off real guns, you don't want to get in range of the Tech 9s, and that's exactly what Xboth and Crane did. Handing over this round may as well have been given on a silver platter along with those rifles. With this up, maybe I thought Loki was gonna get the shot, and there it is. The bomb is down, but maybe it won't be all she wrote. Lepizio firing back, turning this into a 2v2.
And now it's really just a matter of can they outlast the bomb timer as you see the USA side starting to get a little bit more aggressive. PCO taking out the op, Crispy cleaning up Wizard, and that's going to be a clean and easy defuse for the side of USA, putting up their fourth. But that was not at all as clean as we would have expected to. You know, it's good that they had a refrag opportunity at lawn, but USA almost lost that round just from being a little over aggressive against a Siena team that's not unwilling to be kind of a little unorthodox or a little aggressive when they come into those eco rounds.
Sometimes you got to get wacky, Viking. Sometimes you got to get nuts so crazy.
Right? I want to see more of that nonsense. That was some good stuff. Shake it all up.
Well, I don't want to see that that nonsense from USA handing over some weapons, but it is what it is. Posture to have a defense from Monster. Cross angle here. Another spread play out from Siena. They don't like to be working as a cohesive unit, as we've noticed across these last couple of rounds. But it has sometimes worked in their favor. I think they got to stick together more if they want to have a consolidated effort to execute on the site.
Yeah, right now we see them more. It's like we're watching a game of League of Legends or Dota with all these split lane pushes, just doing their best to get information and picks. And in some cases, that's worked out for them, giving them some of that information. But when you lose, a player like Loki to Xboth without any opportunity for a refrag, that's a pretty not good place to be, to put it as bluntly as possible. Now, with 2 players down and only 2 players greater than 20 HP on the side of Siena, just a minute and 10 seconds into this, very low chances of success. And Crane able to clean up Gray. Pango the only one with 100 HP. Not a lot of chances for them to really do too much. But Wizard trying desperately to bring them back into the round is able to find Lepicio. But otherwise, you've got a very, very healthy, strong set of boys over on the USA team.
The boys are ready to rock, and Soju sit off that critical final pick that they're going to need. It's all up to Wizard now, who will most likely, more than definitely, opt to save and hold on to that AK. Should be necessary. I mean, it would be impossible to do otherwise, as we have, 3 seconds left in the map, or the round.
Able to walk away with an AK is something, but right now they're starting to see USA carry these rounds away from them consistently. So able to get a buy-in on the Siena side is going to be critical as they try to answer back. But I think what you said is exactly right from that last round. Either we'd like to see a little bit more concentrated effort or a little bit of that misdirect that gave them some of those openings a couple rounds ago, just to try to shake it up a little bit and really, find a weakness or a chink in the armor of USA.
Okay, and there goes Loki. Opens it up with a kill against Xboth, but they will trade it out down in Connector. This has just been a series of duels conducted by either side of the team. And they need to create more pressure at this point, Viking. They need to have more pressure on different angles because they're all going for 1v1s essentially. And that's not how you're going to take a site. That's not how you win here. As we can see, another duel, 2 of them out, and Soju wins it without a problem. It's Alabama's 6th round, and it's looking like they're going to be running away with this if this is how Siena will continue this approach.
It's very reminiscent of one of those, attack the castle from a single angle type of, fallacies you run into from some of those old war strategies. Where right now we're getting, even with the split pushes that we talked about last round, there's not a lot of concerted efforts to find different angles of attack going into the same position. So there's not like your classic B or A splits in this case. It's just sort of push a player towards an area, see if it's there, or a couple players even, and you're ultimately just, hitting that wall. So that is what has led again to the USA picking up 2 frags very early in the round.
Slow play up toward Fountain. We do have Wizard there, starting that engagement against Xboth. Both of them backing off, playing their lives at this moment. A long play. Well, a play down long, I guess. I guess it could be considered a long play as well, Viking. I don't know.
It's true, and Crane is there with the op after getting one of those early picks, so they're aware of where that is, and you can see the players from the USA side starting to move over to the A front. And at this point, it looks like USA is aware of the fact that Siena appears more or less to be committed to that site. Although we see Crispy here continuing to maintain that healthy level of skepticism, just in case there's a little bit of misplay. But Crane and Lupizio able to take out both Wizard and Loki, and ultimately the third player in Gray. So that whole round, just kind of a disaster, frankly, from the start, where Siena just not able to find the success in those early 1v1s, gives up those 2 early frags, and then when they make the decision to finally commit to the A site, the full strength of USA is already there and ready to answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. We have Siena back onto a bit of a well, SMG force round. Might be a P250 involved as well. If they can make it count, running through Monster, that's going to be the first time these players are working as a squad, and it does work out for them a little bit. They do bleed heavily, however, it has been equalized. Now the bomb will go down. Players from A rushing to try and go for this retake.
It was an excellent example of the potential aggression to create these pressure points for USA, who so far have been very good in those 1v1 situations, those isolations, those opportunities to really kind of flex, weapon differences or whatever. But in that case, there's a huge difference. Oh, that shot that didn't go off could be a huge factor here. Loki able to take 2 of them out and single-handedly putting that on his back and just forcing Siena into victory there, and able to close that gap by a single round.
Pango, unfortunately, unable to grab one of those AKs, one of those rifles on the ground. Yet, still, a good win there for Siena. And they had the ability, they worked together, and with all that pressure coming against USA, that's what finally allowed them to push through, and they bulldozed the defense. I mean, they bled quite a bit on the way, but they came out on top, and that's what they have to continue, especially going into this one. Crispy got the angle, though. Wizard was on their way to try and get that first frag. They're backing off now. Don't want to make a harsh commitment onto a failed offense.
I think that's may have been a mistake potentially. They obviously, on the side of USA, learned from what just happened to them. They started to put down more counter utility towards Monster, and ultimately that worked out by getting them both the pick onto Wizard and also staving off the aggression of Siena. Siena is now back into this position where they've sort of committed to going the other direction, but have not put themselves necessarily in a position to actually execute, which is allowing USA to rotate and create a much stronger defensive front. And with Crane, who's been pretty impactful on that op, sitting safely in bank, watching that long, and not a ton of utility to deal with that could be the difference in ultimately this approach. But Siena still taking very, very long to get there, but Loki does not care. Walks onto site, gets a 2K, and Xboth able to ultimately take him and Gray down, making this a 2v3.
Xboth has got to hold it down while they build time for the rest of the team to make it back and have support. Playing a ring around the Rosie with the truck. They get another as OCU falls with the aggressive play. Now Pango all alone in a 1v3. They got the up. They can get it done. They have the tools, but they don't have the time to make it work. But maybe it can come to fruition if they secure more picks with the op. Pango won't be able to survive that swing from Xboth, and that is a huge round there for a 4K for the number 1 on this screen.
That decision to go for it by Pango might ultimately be the undoing of this map overall, just because of how not great of a position they've been financially going into the last couple of rounds. We've seen that in having the scout on a consistent basis as opposed to the op, and then limited utility, which has been sort of difficulties dealing with some of these pieces. But Loki has been, kind of that single bright spot so far, both in terms of kills and impact. But Crane playing aggressively up towards that connector, able to take out Pango, equalizing this, and Loki only on 13 health, may be kind of sidelined for the rest of this particular round.
Yeah, fully splitting them up. They have that bomb. Might be able to move it towards sandbags. They got multiple angles covered, though. Playing perfectly, making sure no one can breach their defenses here. Maybe a nade could do him some good. Maybe this swing out from Gray will find success. It will not. OCU, the last one alive, hanging out by water. Not going to do much here, but they might know Xbox is here for the flank. They realize it, but Xbox wins it out.
Another really good example of how when USA is able to isolate Siena players, they win almost every time, whereas opposed to the idea of Siena coming in more collectively as a group and just steamrolling as they did in that last eco. So we'd like to see that adjustment happen a little bit, because it seems like Siena is marginally aware of this fact, but they're not making that strong commitment to that strategy. And as a result of that, they're just getting into these sort of half aggressive positions where they're ready for some of those things to happen, but it's not coming through. Crispy and Crane able to take out all the aggression that they had towards water. So once again, pretty early into the round, Siena is down 2 players.
Things just aren't looking good so far for Siena at this moment. And the second that we see Greg turn this corner, they're going to be met with harsh opposition. They can start out with a bit of utility. Might be able to win this one because they do have backup in terms of OCU, but it's just a P90. Not too much in terms of long range capabilities, as we'll find out if that's going to work out on long as the PZO makes their way up.
Gray takes that first kill in Xboth. Lepizio continues with this battle. Is he going to expect it? He sees it. The bomb's now down. The frag goes to Loki on that P90, which is great. There are 3 players on the B side rotating very quickly over into A, so this could be the opportunity for Siena to pull that reversal, go back to the site, and it does seem like that's what they're going to make the attempt to do. So depending on whether they hear them or not, USA's forces are going to be split a little bit, but Siena being very cautious because they have low health and they know how much USA likes to maintain at least a presence on either side in case of trickery. But this slow pace might ultimately be the difference between them actually getting there and not, with only 10 seconds left on the clock, and Crane with that op watching that short position.
They've got to hurry up. Crane gets the shot. I don't think they can have that time to make the plant, and they don't. Gray backs off, holds on to the AK. That's the 10th round here for USA. Looking pretty desperate on the side of Siena College at this moment.
It is indeed, with only 2 rounds in the half and not a ton of cash on the side of Siena. They really have to try something. So I would love for them to be as aggressive as possible, come in there, go back to some of those strategies that got them those 3-round wins, and ultimately try to make something out of what they've got left before they swap over to the CT side. It seems like even with the minimized buy that they had, they're continuing to opt for a slower split play, which it hasn't worked with guns, so I'm skeptical of seeing how that's going to work without much firepower.
I think if they're going to go for this play, they just have to win their 1v1s. There's nothing more that can be said. If this is the strategy that they want to employ, they have to work it better. Setting up that nade does get almost chunks out onto, I believe, Soju there. Takes a little bit of hit, but they're on the other side of pillar. Keeping it down over in lower side of water. It's Wizard here, though. Has the chance to make a big move, and they do. They get onto Xboth. That converts into a rifle. They can make that play continue. OC running it down. Monster gets a headshot, and that is going to be huge. Soju, though, with the blind fire, saves their spot and their position, holding it down by the barrels. Now it might be a rotation off of this site.
You can just feel just the slight hesitancy in every move that Siena is making here, and that just split second of hesitancy going on to any particular site is creating a huge opening for USA to come in and punish freely, frankly. Now they are able to get the bomb down, but there's not a lot of weaponry on the side of Siena left. There is no utility left, an M4 and a MAC-10. Crispy able to take out Wizard on that M4 immediately. Low-key takes 2. He's got a 1v1. He knows where he is. Can he help? Can he close it out? Yes. He gets that 4th round for Siena and ultimately gives them an opportunity to walk away with this 10-5.
A great clutch out there by Loki, holding it down for his team. That's exactly what they needed. Though it is the last round of the half, they can convert it into another one. At least keep the pace and get some energy back. They got rifles on board. Wizard running with the op. Doesn't have much utility, but they can make some magic happen. They are a wizard after all. Let's see what they can do with this piece of hardware. We have Crane, however. They're on the fly. It's OC, the first one to fall. They're going to establish their control, their dominance. So let's see if the Flash has anything to say about that. It doesn't. Xboth escapes it, takes a frag for themselves.
This very look from USA, although they've been putting some aggression to long in the past, we haven't seen a whole lot of that presence in the past couple of rounds, largely because the first looks have been a little bit more towards the B or connector side. But ultimately, Siena getting punished, losing both OCU and Loki, two huge Implex players. Xboth taking up the third, and Pango means that before a minute has elapsed on the clock, Siena is down to just two players and a very, very, very remote chance of walking away with a victory here, especially considering that they are now out of utility, except for a nade and a smoke. But Wizard able to take out the operating Crane, so maybe there's an opening, but there's still quite a mountain to climb for both Gray and Wizard to come out of this with a victory.
We've seen Xboth in this position before over by the truck. They could dance around the site, keep their eyes on the prize, and survive. Do have Gray pushed all the way up at the mouth of A long. We have a Soju. Not really sure what's going on here. I think it's all going to come to fruition once they make this swing. So they only got 15 seconds left. They got to make a move. Xboth, though, on the off angle, makes it easy. USA closes out the first half 11-4.
USA across the board consistent in their presence and their ability to take on those 1v1s successfully, and again continuing to isolate the Siena players on a one-on-one or on a situational basis, and make sure that that strategy of taking a slower approach to the individual rounds a much more costly endeavor as they made those attempts. So now going into the second round, as Siena starts off on the CT side, they will only have 4 rounds to their team's name, whereas USA is starting out from a huge 7-round advantage, and USA already showing off aggression, pushing for that early B site take, and Siena not quite ready for it.
Oh no, Loki doesn't win it out, and that will be an issue as Lepizio taking that advantage. They pushed all the way up to Tunnel. OC wants to escape, wants to make it out. They're going to have to fight for their lives just to get an opportunity at the retake. Do win the first one. Do have Gray up in heaven, looking to tap down some shots, and they get it. Now, a 2v3. The angles are here, I think. OCU knows it. OCU gets the shot. And they have to be aware of every single player, but they can't keep their eyes everywhere at once. Xboth, another round on how they are proving themselves to be a formidable player within this squad.
Xboth has been one of those names that we're seeing consistently on the kill feed, especially in those critical moments, and that's just continuing to give USA a lot of confidence as they continue to rack up rounds on top of those frags. So now we come into a familiar situation where USA has a better hardware advantage and are able to take on Siena, but Siena coming out with that aggression, trying desperately to get something out of it, not able to get a single frag from that fountain aggression. USA just kind of sitting back and waiting for them to run into the crosshairs. So now just low-key remains on the side of Siena, trying to get something out of a round that has ultimately not fared particularly well for them.
Element of a surprise here, Viking. That's all low-key's got. They gotta keep it low-key as they creep through toilets. Might be able to secure something. The USA is just having fun with it, and there's gonna be no fun for Loki in that one. USA keeps the pressure coming. Siena College only losing 3 rounds from this loss here on map 1. It's just an issue across frags across the board, Viking. It's Loki who's putting the team on their back, but they can't carry it.
Absolutely, and that's really putting them in a big issue, especially as now they're on the CT side, and Loki can only be in one place at a time. But they are doing their best, and they have opted, of course, to buy into a round early, opting for the slightly lesser utility outfit, but hoping that they'll be able to use that to their advantage to kind of claw back some of the rounds that they lost in the earlier parts of the game. But with USA on 13 rounds, the margin of error for Siena is basically nothing, because if they lose this round, they've got very little or nothing to come back to. Wizard
Nice.
making the best out of their positioning and out of their M4 puts them up 2 people so far in the round, with a minute left and 3 of USA's players angling a little bit more towards that A site.
Good play out there by Wizard using the double boost. Now the momentum has shifted a bit, at least for the round. They aren't going to do anything aggressive, nothing crazy at the moment, because they don't have it in them. All 3 stacked in toilets. And they aren't exactly sure what to do. That smoke will make it a bit more difficult, or maybe even more easy for them to make their way up mid. Xboth exposing themselves. Will be the first one to fall, and now low-key. Hoping to finish it off. Crane, though, quick on the MAC-10. Stays alive. 30 seconds left, and just an SMG in hand. Going to be a difficult one to win.
He is, but he's getting some of those farm kills out, and then he'll have the opportunity to switch over to the Galil and then maybe pick up one of the larger rifles if he chooses to be a little bit more aggressive. But as you say, Siena seems to have secured this round, which is critical considering what they have left to overcome if they have any hope in seeing victory in this first map.
Good plays by them. Holding on. Keeping that back posture they were looking for. Don't want to give up sight. Don't want to play for retake. Just full stop on USA going into the defensive half. And if they can keep this up and just play longer angles, might be able to win it out. We're having a bit of a split here. Let's see what USA can put together on this round.
Taking a similar approach to what we saw from Siena, hoping obviously to see a little bit more success out of that. Crane able to just take the kneecaps off of Loki, but ultimately able to escape with his life, means that one of the key players from Siena is still on the board and able to have an impact potentially throughout the rest of the round. But that is a result of not really putting down any counter utility. They seem to have sussed out the fact that USA are opting obviously for a slightly less aggressive approach. But as USA has taken full control over the lower bathrooms area, as well as Connect, they're at a significant advantage in terms of both the information that they have and, of course, the HP based on the initial attack. Although Wizard, playing from that closet position, able to take out 2 players from Connector.
Great job by Wizard there and holding on to their lives. Don't want to peek yet. Xboth now reveal themselves and will continue to earn that frag. It is a good play by Wizard, but it couldn't last for too long. And now Crane with the up, finishing the job they started. Not a leg this time. Now it's a 3v3. The execute onto sight should be good. The Crispin goes out, looking for the shot on the pallets. They get it, but they will be traded out. Here comes a nade, but it doesn't make it. More positioning out here by Crane with the op. It's all up to Pango, and I don't know if they even realized that Xboth jumped around, but it doesn't matter. Crane had the shot. He had his number with the op. USA is back on track to winning.
It was a great cover smoke decision there to ultimately get into water for that flank and the bridge aggression there by Pango. And that was something that Siena could not afford to let through their grasp. As we see here, they don't have a ton to answer for at this point, with game point coming up on the balance of how this round ultimately turns out. While on the other hand, USA feels very comfortable. They've obviously done quite well across the board, and they've mostly maintained the rifles that they're coming through. So obviously with a 9-round cushion, they're not going to be playing with too much hesitancy. As you can see, they're already rushing towards that long, trying to catch off awares, and there's nobody from Siena on site to answer that aggression.
Pango, a few good shots, maybe even more. Crispy the first one to fall in this offense. Now they have full sight control. Xboth blowing Wizard's brains on the back of the dumpster as they continue to hold this position. It's all up to now Gray coming from bottom of the area, bottom bank. They have no idea Crane's got the angle, and that's just going to be exactly what we expected. They were saving to go into match point. This is do or die, Viking. They have no options here.
It is, and certainly based on how things are going, this isn't looking good for Siena. But they're trying to overcome that bleakness with the power of positivity and a couple guns on their side, including, a scout and a couple M4s. So they're going to do their best to isolate and shut down any potential strategy from USA. But even if then they're successful in this round, they literally have a 1 round margin to keep the USA side from this first map victory.
Yeah, every single step that they're gonna take going forward has to be careful. There's no time for them to lose, but there's no rounds for them to lose in Soju. If you're trying to close it out right now, you can't lose that 1v1. A good play by Wizard. And now they are kind of reevaluating what their strategy needs to be. A bit of a rotation. Wizard getting kind of close to them on connector. Might even have their number if they play it safe. If they play it smart, this could continue to go in Siena's favor.
Seems like they're opting for that B setup, and there are players, of course, on that site in better positioning than we saw from the A front in that last point. Lepizio jumps out and able to just swing and take out Wizard, who had what should have been an easy kill there, and that ultimately could be the beginning of the end for Siena.
And that was just going to be a fake out, because the real play is headed toward A. We still have players, it's OCU in bank, expecting the rotation. They expected the fake out, and they're not buying it. Still have that position. It's Xbox over, or it's Pango by the truck. They get taken down. Now it's falling apart as we speak. Gray and OCU, the last one's alive. The angle from Lepizio almost keeps it together, almost takes it out, almost seals the deal, but it's almost all but sealed at this point. Lepizio, that forward angle on the dumpster, and now they're about to put Siena College in the dumpster. If Lepizio can push the angle and end this map, 16-5.
That was almost as decisive as a victory as we saw from Marquette over Marist in their first round on Nuke. And USA, especially coming from the position that they were at the start of this split after, how the fall went for them, must be feeling just over the moon about this result. And certainly a very different result from what we saw, as we mentioned, in that week 3 matchup. So we are going to see if maybe USA's pick, not even, overpass, which was Siena's pick, coming into this next space on Inferno to see if they're able to bring this back. And we've seen Inferno be the great equalizer for some of the other teams. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens.
Yeah, leaps and bounds from what we originally saw in that 30-32 round differential between these squads. So let's see if USA can keep it up on our next map right after this break. Welcome back, everybody, to EGFC Week 10 of Counter-Strike. We're in the middle of this intense series between Siena and University of South Alabama, where Alabama is taking map 1, and we're heading into their pick. For this cast, it's me, Los, joined by my boy, Viking. How are we feeling going into map 2?
Excited. Was not, I don't think, expecting quite the dominant performance that we saw from USA, but that was quite a decisive victory on Siena's map pick of Overpass. And now as we come back into Inferno, we've seen Inferno be the land of upsets across quite a few maps and so many matchups. So we'll see if that's the opportunity in this case as well for Siena to claw back those rounds to even up the map score and potentially take away a victory from USA. So this is a big deal. USA is currently pretty low on the standings, and they're doing their best to fight their way back through this as we start to look towards conference championships starting in the next couple of weeks. While Siena continues to try to fight their way through the midfield to stay in those upper echelons of competition behind our top tier of teams like DePaul and Colorado, which we'll see coming up next. So it really comes down to execution, as it always does, with Siena starting off on the CT side, as USA will do their best to set the tone and the pace for how they continue through and hopefully on a winning streak into this map.
That's exactly right. And what I'm expecting from Siena is more than just low-key. More than just low-key to show up for these rounds, because while they've been doing a great job, they need support. It is a full team effort, and I think now that these players are forced to stack up together as they're defending sites, it might be a little bit easier here on Inferno. But we have all of USA making their way up. Banana, once they start to execute, it's going to be crazy. Here comes out the utility, and now they're flooding on to the objective. The site is going to be attempted to be cleared out. They're all shooting toward coffins, and finally they're going to turn their attention back to Wizard, who did manage to get one before falling.
Loki finding Crispy through the smoke is going to give them just a slight advantage. They're going for the quick boost, but the smoke fades. OCU doesn't care, just gets the 2 headshots, and both Soju and Lepicio have left this map. And with such, Siena takes that first round on the CT side.
A good start there from USA, but an even better finish from Siena to get this map popping off, and we're having that immediate buy into SMGs. I do believe there is one M4 on the lineup. It's OCU. I mean, they earned it with those last-minute frags. And now, opposite story here. It's going to be a rush toward A side. Multiple players going up mid, but we do have Lepicio up, or Lepicio was up in apartments, no longer. They're swinging around to Boiler, hoping to get a good shot on in, but they do actually manage to convert some kills and get the bomb planted.
Soju accidentally taking out his buddy and his teammate on that, meaning that he, is paying a little bit of penance as he's taken out by Wizard there as we see the retake come in. But Crane, who's picked up that M4 already, very dangerous, and just a 2v1 going for those last 2 frags. Gets the dink onto Loki, who's able to ultimately close out with that P90 for the defuse. And man, this is such a great example of why you can't give USA just any iota of hope or space because they will take advantage of it.
Exactly, yeah. Once that, I guess, information, there is a player up in apartments, was realized, they just hit the gas, all running down by Boiler, trying to get onto site. They did manage to win out the gunfights ultimately, and that shows that even with Tech 9s, USA can be deadly, but now it's time for them to show what they've got with rifles in hand.
It is notable that most of them are on Galils, so there will still be a slight disadvantage to the side of USA as they go into their first buy round. But because they got those bomb downs, there's no reason to wait any longer. So they slowed down a little bit compared to the last 2 rounds. They're playing that more methodical pick and move sort of situation, where Siena is continuing to play very conservatively. They're not trying to give any openings. They're not peeking down mid or banana, opting instead to play more directly from site, which, just sort of based on the lack of success that they saw on the CT side last map, seems to be the right call.
We're trying to wallbang, but they can't quite find it. Soju does claim one before being traded out. Pango, last bastion here on A. They are actually going to change their mind back to B. Little did they know there was no rotation off Siena. They're in position, waiting for this re-attack onto B. First one's going to be Gray to find that out. Finds one, gets one, continues it. Crane, though, wins out, gets the double kill. It's a 1v1. This bomb is going down.
Crane, the new player on the team, replacing Tiny T, our boy, has been a
Our
huge
boy.
impact over these last the last map and this now especially. He's going for that spray down, hasn't quite connected those shots yet, and Pango unfortunately not able to find that and ultimately gives the first round over to USA. This is almost a mirror result of what we saw in the last map.
Dancing around the pillars, Crane was able to get it done, and it all started with a great spray transfer out to earn those 2 kills before the bomb was planted. And it all started so well for Siena. I don't know, it just fell apart right when they lined up over by A. It's seeming to be if they can have that additional angle covered with a third player on B site, they are hoping to bolster that defense, but check out the push on the mid. It is caught out by Lapizio. Now we'll see who has to back up after being spotted out.
And they do have those 3 players, like you mentioned, over to B, and right now that's been matched by where USA is starting to favor. But ultimately, without a whole lot of weaponry, it's still going to be a tough ask for them to come out of this successfully. But hey, if they can knock off a couple guns, it's a pretty good space. Wizard able to get two with the USP and gets out for almost a third.
Almost, but it's allowed Pango to swing around and get another and put some damage over onto Soju. That's going to be enough peppering to allow the scout to finish him off with 1 shot. Lapizio, though, on the back angle, will have this flank at the ready. The pillars are blocking it just enough for it to be hidden. OCU, though, moves up, will be caught out. And that's the second round here for USA.
That was a much closer round than I think either of us anticipated. Those USPs did a lot more damage than I expected by any means. And the fact that they were allowed to live for as long as they did made me pretty nervous, because USA coming into these positions has done a pretty good job of dealing with, you know, the differences in firepower that they're dealing with or whatever. But that was a huge and costly mistake that, as you can see, they're still on some Galeals.
The shots into apartment, not finding too much success. Loki hurt a little bit. They still win out that immediate gunfight against Soju, swinging out, going for number 2. It is not secured. And they are going to back off. The information is gained by Siena, but they're not looking to press anything here, and neither is USA.
Now it feels like we're basically restarting the round all over again. Players back to their original starting positions, equal sides, very little damage. But as you can see on the Siena side, they're still dealing with very, very limited hardware, with OCU still just on a USP. So it's really up to Gray and Wizard with the stronger weapons of the crew to really make that difference. And luckily, there are 2 players on the Siena side ready for this B aggression. And it seems like maybe Pango's got a sense that something might be happening, so he's going for that early rotate, while we see OCU going to pick up that M4.
Oh, there was one out there for Gray. Not able to make it to Xboth. Clears out the site with ease using that Galil. And now they have control. Is going to be a retake from both angles. We have Pango by the church. Backs off a bit. Doesn't want to commit. Lose their life before their teammate can make it through. OCU does have the M4 at hand. And I'm not sure they're expecting a shot from here, but there are some shots out from OCU. No, Lapizio doesn't win it out. They have backup. They're pushing together. Both the players are by the coffins in construction. They just have to try and get it done. But he's hidden behind the coffins. He doesn't have an angle. Xboth, though, forces the issue. Gets the angle. Gets the round.
Very close round, as we've seen several times from these 2 teams, and a little bit more reminiscent of the opportunity to keep it even, like we were kind of hoping, seeing coming in, again leaning on those week 3 results that we saw previously. But unfortunately, those closer rounds are just favoring USA than they are for Siena. So despite the best efforts of those, both Pango and OCU, at the end of that, they're coming away at a deficit, and now they're back to a position where their economy is pretty bad, real bad. And so they've got that MP9, they've got head armor and a deagle and a few upgraded pistols outside of that, which hopefully they'll be able to do some damage. We saw that in round 4, but ultimately not enough to give them a true advantage, and they really need to just keep building up more so they can come back together. Lupizio gets that opening on Pango, and that could be nothing because Wizard immediately answers with a kill onto Crispy.
Wizard is finding so many critical frags with the pistol. They're the opposite of what an eco-fragger is supposed to mean, and it's a pretty solid way to hold it down, especially when your team is very down on the economy. Oh, Crane might be able to spray through the smoke, doesn't get it. Now it is a pinch here from Siena, but it isn't pressure because they have all the weapons, they have the better firepower, so Siena's got to make a big play here if they actually want to cause USA to start sweating. And it might start now here with the Deagle out from Gray. Doesn't get the shot. Only a few body hits. Nothing to secure a kill. Everyone's spread out. Everyone's looking to make that first play, but here comes Wizard. The second one to swing out. They don't get the job done. And everyone slowly falls here from Siena.
There's just a slight delay on that porch push versus the balcony push, which created some openings in terms of, keeping attention focused in one place at a time. So we did, as you would expect, see another frag out from Wizard before he ultimately goes down in a heroic blaze of fire, but it's ultimately not enough to turn the tides in Siena favor. So USA, after dropping those first 2 rounds, seem to have found the level of comfort that they were looking for. And now they're up, 4 rounds without an answer from Siena.
A slow play. Everyone spread out, looking for that first piece of info. Multiple players up by apartments. No strong commitments, though. And certainly none here from Siena on any peaks. Smoking a boiler ensures a bit of a thinking twice option for USA before they make their push. And makes sense. They have to hold on to any lead, any possible angle they can. They're going to take it slow.
A noticeable sort of lack of presence is Siena is opting entirely from staying out of that upper mid area, especially earlier in the round. Instead, playing from porch here, and they're just continuously getting sprayed down by the double players coming out of boiler because there's no support coming from that arch side. And so maybe one of the things, depending on how this round goes, that could stem the bleeding a little bit, giving Loki the freedom to peek from that top mid area, put a little bit more aggression in, and take maybe a leaf out of Marquette's book where you put a lot of mollies and things down Brent. But Gray, almost with a 2K, comes up short, and Xpoth causes the fall of Gray. Crispy, lots of kills trading both sides. Crane inevitably comes out with Loki taking that last kill, and now it's down to that 1v1 with Crispy having to rotate all it from the B side, opting to come through library, which hopefully Loki should understand and be prepared for.
Yeah, there's no time. They just have to survive, and I don't think Crispy can find them to win it off of his time. Waiting it out. No need to peek that one. But it is one of those times and USA's split strategy has bit them in the back. Because they are always trying to draw out Siena from either of these sites. And Siena, they're not buying it. They always hold firm regardless of a pick or two from either side of the map. They stay firm because they know USA never commits on the first fight.
Absolutely. To their credit, they've done an excellent job of being that stalwart presence wherever they, start the round. Sometimes to their disadvantage, but in those types of situations, it's been really good to ensure that they aren't giving up a site unnecessarily. They seem to really be, planning, let's stay in here, let's keep that presence, let's opt for the defense instead of the retake. And ooh, what a dirty shot from Soju, just taking out Loki from that upper mid position, ultimately costing the op, which is now switched over to Pango. So that aggression that I was hoping to see before really, really bit them in the ass, and now they're down one of their major impact players.
Down bad a little bit here on round 8. Smoke off onto Wizard. But nothing believable now in terms of an aggression play towards A, because it's all coming over to B. Holding firm, it's OC. They've survived the first one. Gray there for the support, and they're staying alive. Gray there, doing more damage, and a smoke kill with the op out of Pango is going to be huge. A big detriment for their assault on A or B. Pango, though, will swing around from construction. Maybe this could be the play.
Pango playing kind of a dangerous game, having the op, and both of the USA players seem to know exactly where he is. So Pango's now in a tough position. He's got to fight one way or the other and hope that he can surprise on the op. He's going to try to find Lupizio. Lupizio winning that and taking away the op, which ultimately didn't have a huge impact except for that one frag from Pango, losing obviously Loki earlier in that round. But Siena's not doing so great on the money, so they're going to opt to continue with that eco buy, which is the smart move here. There's a much less of a gap to worry about at this point, so it's better to just take that where you can. Loki's going to opt for the M4, so there's just a little bit more of an opportunity to put up a defense, and we're seeing a little bit of a change. Wizard, I should not have spoken that quickly, because Wizard, just as he has seen in previous rounds, continuing to get those eco frags.
Oh, that was a great shot from Lepizio. I didn't even think they were going to hit that one. A smoke battle. Finds one on each side. Now they go to recover the bomb. Question is, where will they take it? No real ground has been gained except for a little bit of an advantage in apartments. However, based on their posturing currently, that's not going to be the move. We'll look to make their way up banana and have a B execute.
And with only Gray on that site with the P250, you see a little bit of an attempt at a misdirection play from Soju. He's going to push over into Arches and try to get that early kill. Takes out OCU and ultimately removes the easy transition presence. But now that's triggered the movement of USA onto the A site, and now Pango with the Deagle is going to try to find his kill, and he takes out Soju with a 1D. So now this site's a little bit more complicated, but ultimately Crane, who's been that impact player for USA, answers back quickly with a one tap of his own. And now it's just Gray with that P250 trying to take on both Crane and Lupizio with two rifles and a stalwart effort to continue their winning streak. Crane.
Oh no. Unfortunate there. Through the smoke, Gray goes down. But I want to mention, since we were talking about pistols, I think Wizard has gotten more kills with the pistol than with actual rifles.
I think you're right, which is not a great stat, probably. But I think it probably speaks to the difference in their approach and the mentality of that strategy as they're pushing through to it. In all those cases, Wizard has been playing a little bit more on the off angles, a little bit more aggressively, and that's obviously served him pretty well. But when he gets a rifle, they're opting more for these on-site plays in the more traditional spaces. And that, in some cases has worked out okay for them as they're defending one side or the other. But it's when you start to see those efforts split between the two sites, or when they lose that arc side on the A front, that you really start to see these pretty significant weaknesses come to light.
Thumbs up banana. Oh, Crane with a great shot over on OCU. Now that's going to be their idea. They got to move it over to B because that forced the rotation out from Loki. This is the classic out of the USA playbook. Get a pick, go to the other location.
And it seems like they would have heard Loki making that transition, so they're aware of the fact that there might be as little as one player on this B site. And so it really comes down to Gray and to Wizard to really pull something out here as the full execute comes in, and Crispy looking for that early kill. Gray takes the first one, Wizard goes down, Gray goes down to Lepicio's op, and now we're back to that familiar position of Siena trying that retake on B.
Yeah, name a stronger duo. It's USA or Siena in a retake scenario. A classic one to that. Lepizio, great shot on the op. Pango, not even going to bother with this retake situation. Holding on to that M4 for the next round. USA, feeling pretty good at this point.
Now, Los, we've seen quite a few looks from Siena as they're trying to recapture those first two round magics. What do you think that Siena is doing that's creating sort of these really difficult positions that's ultimately not seeing victory for them?
I think it's just coming out to a bit of molly placement, to be honest. If they have that molly ready to stop that push, because there's no need to send it out in the beginning of the round. You have to hold on to it toward the latter half. As we can see, not a single molly or incendiary in this round. They're all focusing on smokes and flashes, which of course are useful, they're necessary. But when you have a team like USA, which focuses on flooding the site, you have to have a hard stop to them. Because once you have the info, toss out the molly, get the rest of your team to rotate and potentially outmaneuver USA.
I think that's a great point because USA obviously is showing no shyness about pushing directly through the smoke. Although in this case, that might be working out to their disadvantage as Wizard comes up big with the kills through the smoke, a third onto Xboth, and now there's just Lepicio.
Yeah, Lepicio has the op. They have to back off at this point. They don't have the bomb in hand. There's no way for them to recover it. It will take a miracle for them to win this one out. Siena College coming back finally. And actually, it came all down to utility by pushing the smoke on the side of USA. Gave them a stark disadvantage, of course, with Wizard spraying through that smoke, racking up the kills. It's exactly what they needed to try and get a bit of their stride back and certainly more weapons in hand.
And I think that Siena must have heard you because now we see 3 mollies on their side on either site. So at least there's a little bit more there, but how they're using them obviously is going to be the main difference here. Loki opting for the quick and early pressure down mid, gets the first one, but ultimately loses his life to Soju, who's paying attention from that alt mid position. So now Xpoth, unaware of the fact that somebody might be in balcony, is looking for that kill. OCU able to get one onto Crane, who's been that big impact player, but he's not going to have his gun out, and Soju rushes through, picks up the N4, goes towards back halls, and this is something that is a lot closer than it should have been considering the hardware difference.
Bit of hubris coming out from Siena once they had that round. They had the initial pick, and they wanted to keep it going low-key. Threw his body on the line. Pango with a Kobe. Pango with an op hit. Now holding it down is just Soju. Big flash coming up, looking at the chicken butt. And that's what's up. Soju, the last one to try and hold it on the site. Gray now put in the 1v1 scenario. Soju with plenty of time. All the time in the world even. They will get that bomb planted.
It's a difficult position for Gray to be in. There's a lot of places to check, but he seems to have a sense that he's probably on site. Does a little bit of chip damage, but he's getting close. That's a big, big sigh of relief for the side of Siena, who almost saw disaster rise from that particular round with almost no investment from the side of USA.
Yeah, that was a nail-biter round if you're a fan of Siena. They do come through with the dub, but it was quite costly. All right, money in the bank for Pango. Big 8K baller on that player. We'll have some time. We'll have some funds to keep the team going, but Pango is going to have to buy again, maybe even more if their OCU walks into Crane's op. 2 of them just going into the kill feed for fun after that. Real tough round, making it a bit easier here for USA on round 13.
And now what was the difference maker, which, you know, was just strictly number and utility execution for the side of Siena, is now completely gone because you just had completely unnecessary aggression from Siena early in that round. They probably weren't expecting Crane to be there with the op and to make those, but for the OCU to go in for that second one is not a smart choice. And Jacrispy able to take down Loki, who's doing his best to snatch whatever damage he can out of this, is dead, with PCO picking up Wizard, and now Gray, the only one left, is seemingly on the fence about whether he wants to try for that 1v4 hero play.
See, the issue with that one, right at the end with Wizard, wasn't the fact that they pushed the smoke into a 1v4. It was actually because they didn't have the pistol out Viking.
Critical. And those types of errors are ultimately what's going to cost them the match. USA looks like they're about to, they will extend their lead to 5 rounds to 8 over Siena, which means we're going into the final 2 rounds of this this half. Not nearly as much of a difference as we saw as we were playing in Overpass, but still enough that Siena is not in a particularly comfortable position.
Yeah, not a great time for them to throw away the op on that last round. That was a tough hit for Siena. especially all coming at the hands of Crane, a real impact player. I think we've talked about this player many times, bringing him up in just how they have made rounds so much easier for the rest of their team, especially highlighting those two players, the two picks they got on mid. And that crippled their defense. It crippled their manpower, firepower, everything they needed to try and secure the round. And now it's given USA the confidence to try that big map split again.
Really, there's a little bit of confusion early in the round on the choice of buy from Siena. We see now the buy is in on low key. There's a little bit of discussion, it seemed, as to who was going to get the M4 or the SMG. But they have got that figured out, and luckily USA has been playing a little bit more conservatively, so not too much punishing there. Most of the US team is up in that upper mid area, just kind of playing around as they're still trying to look for some of that damage. And they're about to run into OCU, who takes out their first player, giving them the distinct advantage early off, but there's still one player down without a rifle.
Flash avoided. Push void. I mean, that's what it would have been if they didn't get a little aggressive on that last peak. Now it has brought USA to their old ways. Swing it back. Oh, almost a crazy peak if they actually had the weapon out. Try and activate. Bit of a stall there. Now it will be the full-on execute here to B site. Spraying through the smoke. It's Xboth. Gets a tag or two over on the Wizard. Crane there to finish it off. You know how they do with the op through the smoke. Bomb goes down.
We're back in that very, very familiar position where Siena is doing their best to retake on B, but ultimately have not been successful so far. But that seems to about to change with EGFC, the only one standing between the Siena and the bomb defuse. And with him going down from the new box position, they're going to see a 6th round go in favor of the Saints.
It's what they've been looking for. It's what Siena has been looking for. It wasn't exactly the cleanest round coming from all of these players, coming from Siena, but it will be enough for them to have some dough going into the final round of the half. Utility might be a little weak on Wizark and Pango, potentially. However, they have enough to make themselves feel a little bit comfortable going on to round number 15.
Agreed. And with this being the last round, this is obviously something where Siena wants to get as close as possible, and then obviously start out with a pistol round win in the next one. But Soju making that difficult by removing Loki, who's been such that critical linchpin on the side of Siena.
There was a bit of hesitancy on peeking the stairwell, and that's exactly what cost him. And the aggression from OCU, one that is unnecessary perhaps, but Wizark there with the double trade up now. Full equalizer in the man advantage. Wizark pressing that advantage as they look to take even more ground away from USA. He's actually hiding back, almost going towards the T-Abs, T-Spawn. And they will be spotted out. Lepizio, a real dose of damage onto his head, but not enough to kill him. But it will make it easier here for Pango to clean him up with a 3K and end the first half, 7-8.
It was a huge 3K and one of the most clutch rounds that Siena could ask for at the end of the half there. Pango stepping up, making a significantly more noise than we'd seen over the last couple of rounds from that IGL there. And ultimately equalizing as close as obviously you can get in a half, and just getting into that blow for blow trade that we were expecting to see from the beginning. So now as USA swaps over to the CT side, it's up to them to really set the tone and decide whether or not they're going to position themselves for a larger victory.
EGFC taking a lot of damage, but dealing it as much and even more. Pango, the first one to fall. And now we have Xboth running it down Banana there for the opposite angle. And it's a pinch here onto Siena College. They have to make a move. They got to explode onto site just to save themselves from getting shot in the back. And ooh, Gray with a good kill, maybe a second. Now they have Wizark, the pistol phenom, and there it is, exactly what you expect out of Wizark. A good headshot to clear some space and get the plant in.
That was an excellent performance from all of the remaining players on Siena to try to get this together. USA is slowly creeping into position to consider that retake, but without a kit, they're running out of time from doing their best doesn't matter. Lupicio peeks out of balcony, goes down to gray, and Loki is going to clean up Xboth coming from the arch side of the site. So Siena is doing everything that they need to make sure that they stay in this game, now equalizing at 8-8, going into that second round of the second half.
And now it's time for Siena to press their luck, press the advantage, press the money, the economy, and throw it all against USA. What is going on here? What is this? They're lining themselves up to be destroyed.
They were trying really hard to get that Astrala stack to see if they were getting out. They did pick right. I mean, that was, you know, if you're going to go for the full save and put it all into one strategy, I mean, like that certainly has worked in the past. But Siena, by virtue of, I don't know, I guess chance, were prepared for it and able to take everybody down without losing a single player, positioning them really well for this upcoming round. And now USA on their first major buy is going to come into this aggressively, but losing a little bit of health to the Molly already, going to force them to back up onto site. And so far, no kills traded, but there's a lot of aggression of that Siena team towards the B site.
Pizio, by coffins, realizes the danger they're in, but does it flinch? Get the first one onto Pango and back off into construction. Holding steadfast, and it will allow some time for the rest of USA to follow up and swing it out. Soju does get Wizard. And that does make things a bit easier. Lapizio brought down to 4 HP with the nade. Almost walks into the flames, but they're actually spitting flames. This hot fire on this flank, potentially. They are able to make this retake a possibility, because there's only 2 players left. One in dark, one by the entrance to site. Gray, though, hanging out in dark, keeping it fresh. They will fall down eventually, and the retake by USA is good.
Critically, Lupicio able to hang on to just 4 HP for the entirety of the end of that round, and making such an impact, not only going out there and, you know, positioned to, you know, be the bait for his teammates, but instead of being the bait, he's the aggressor and ultimately the victor of 2 kills there. So that type of play is exactly why USA has had the advantage, and obviously why we saw such success from them on the side of Overpass. So Siena has got to learn to make sure that, you know, as they're coming into these positions, to really close that down and finish off those frags. Otherwise, they've shown, you know, what USA can do with just a couple HP.
Slow plays against USA are making their way toward A. Some flames are stopping them in apartments. We'll have to back off, but they got to be careful because Banana, it's a very forward play here from USA. 2 of them lying in wait in those cubbies. Oh, but he might be able to catch them off. Yes, Loki gets 1, he gets 2. And that's going to realize it's the signal flare. They got to move. They got to rotate over back to B because no one is there waiting for it.
And with 5 players alive on Siena, oh my goodness. OCU reading the rotation perfectly, catching both players as they try to jump into safety of library and ultimately losing their lives to that. So Siena playing that perfectly. Huge opening from Loki to make that B bomb site such a strong option for them. And now Xboth has 35 seconds to figure out how to stay alive.
35 seconds left to save is more like it. And yeah, nothing wrong with that. They realized it's a losing war. They're all the way on the other side of the map, which is actually a good thing because it'll take a lot longer for Siena to try and hunt them down. But I wouldn't be too surprised because we do have Wizard running and rushing across apartments. Might be able to find him, or maybe not the last few moments. Yes! Wizard does indeed get the kill, making this a colossal failure for USA.
Siena managing to get through that round without losing a single player or rifle is critical because they've been in these positions before where they started to see a little bit of success, but because they were always sort of teetering on the edge of financial despair, haven't been able to be as aggressive, or if they did lose, basically start from square one again. So this time around, Siena able to keep all of their weapons, see some success, and take all of them out of the side of USA, who is now down to just a few upgraded pistols and a dream.
Unfortunate Molly by OCU there. But hey, any advantage that USA can take will be built off the mistakes from Siena. Xbox, the first one to open things up for the defenders, but it won't be open for much longer. It's Crane will look to save that Deagle, I suppose, as the hunt comes over to them. It's actually the bomb carrier, Loki, who looks to hunt that one down. They will back off. Holding their breath, it's going to be Crane. Barely escaping the monsters creeping around, but it's not over yet if they decide to move from that spot. There will be players looking to sniff them out.
Yeah, CSU suspicious of the potential rotation from there, so we'll see if they're about to see one another. Crane sticks it in there to find that dig onto OCU, so we've lost one more player on the side of Siena, but Siena's being very careful to make sure that Crane doesn't find any of those weapons. As we can see from the economy there, the buy from USA, should they choose to do so in the next round, is going to be there, but it's not going to be super great. So they're going to try to press that advantage as much as possible without giving up any other rifles.
Of course, when you're so neck and neck, you have to go beyond winning just one round. And Crane almost walks out of that one alive and with a rifle. It will be Gray, though, who snuffs out that dream. Look at all these chickens.
Pango just assembling his own army. Gonna replace the rest of his teammates and just go at it. Siena doing really well. First time I believe that they've led after the first 4 rounds of either map. So a big moment for them to maintain that. They're starting to build a little bit more of a cushion as Lepicio getting aggressive and taking Loki off the board immediately. So now they're aware of that op in Banana and now have to choose ultimately how they're going to see it, especially now that the bottom of Banana is smoked. And they have to be a little bit more careful about how they ultimately choose to proceed. Perhaps sensing that they've backed off, they are just kind of pushing in there and saying, whatever, we're going to come what may, we're going to push through Banana and see what we can take from that. And Lepizio playing from sight is going to be there to answer.
Yeah, they got to slow things down now. Or at least they will. At this point, it's interesting that nobody has a forward hold on apartments. Where essentially they allow Xbox to just take the angle from pit, look up into apartments, and not really worry about it too much. Could have been a big nade there, but both the players up in apartments backed off quite quickly. Now, slowly but surely, they will make their place and try to execute. Molly's out, Utility's out, but they can't make a move.
Not finding any success. Siena's going to back off from that, and Gray's about to peek into that op. He knows that somebody's there, and instead of opting for utility, he's just dry peeking it, hoping for the best.
Oh, good opener by Crane. Wasn't expecting 3 players to Ferrari peek around that corner. And now it will be more help here for Gray. They don't win that duel. And now Lepicio out from construction with the op, picks up 2 and snuffs out the push, the reverse push coming from CT.
Great read from USA, realizing that the flank was coming from that arch side. Ultimately swing around to that. Lepicio gets a 3K that round with the op having such a huge impact to make sure that what could have been a very scary round and ultimately another round in favor of Siena goes the opposite direction. And now Siena's back in a position of not full equipment. So they've got a scout on Gray and a P90 on OCU, who has done some pretty significant damage with that in the past, but you obviously always hope to have more AKs and ops than your opponent. Notably, it's also quite sad that poor Pango lost all of his chicken army. But what are you going to do?
That is a... Oh! Well, I mean, in that situation, not that. Not that, Viking. Unfortunate peek right in the hands. It will be the first shot that allows USA to take an advantage, and they will find a second one as Jacrispy holds firm there on site. Xbox ducking, dodging bullets somehow, and comes out with the headshot onto Loki. And now they will continue and maintain their control, but what is Wizard doing in the library?
Look at all those bullets. That makes quite a difference, but forgets to check onto site. And now they seem to kind of have an idea of where Wizard probably is, but the timing just keeps going in favor of Wizard. Not aware of Soju in the arch position. Ultimately, it takes off that head, and now we're back to even all.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare shoot that. This is a family league.
This is a kind league for kind souls. Can't accept any of that. Siena in kind of a rough position here. We're now getting to the end of those rounds, which means that save rounds are becoming more and more costly, but they do opt for a couple pistols and SMGs. So with the aggression that we're going to see immediately coming onto the B site, if they smoke this and they're just going to push through it maybe, but Crane opting to spray through that smoke and ultimately softening up what Siena's original offense is, slowing that down to a halt. And now USA, aware of where everything is continuing to take those down.
Yeah, tough angle to try and push. The smoke cut off the rest of this team completely. As we saw the first player, I believe Wizard, who swung out only looking toward Fountain, had no idea someone was waiting closer to construction. Now with this rotation, it's expected, but maybe not fully prepared for, as Loki does get one over onto Jacrispy. Xboth will maintain their posture. It's not too much time before the rotation is in full effect. Loki has to win this one quickly and get the bomb planted as soon as possible. But Xboth playing it perfectly, hiding just enough for Loki to have the wrong angle.
An unfortunate execution on an attempt at an eco there from Siena, but it made sense to try to risk it because they've had some pretty success, especially as we pointed out a few times from Wizard on those pistols, finding some of those miraculous opening kills and ultimately making it pretty close rounds. And obviously, like, if they convert that into success, that's a very low cost gamble that they've made. The PCO continuing to be quite deadly with that opt down banana, even just barely managing to keep a couple pixels between him and the molly on car. Wizard almost taking down Jacrispy at the top of mid, ultimately won't be as successful, but now we see all four players from the Siena side starting to creep more and more to that A side. No opening picks for them yet.
This is the first time in a long time we've seen a player up on the balcony waiting for the apartments player. It's Crane hanging up top. And I think this could be a good maneuver, a good placement of that player, as no one's ever had that position before, so it won't be expected by Siena. I'm going to check it. Maybe their attention will be focused on Pit the second that Xboth reveals himself. Actually, no, they will notice it. And now that he has to have backup from Xboth, Xboth does get the kill, but it will cost them their balcony player. I don't think they realized where he was because OCU's attention was not there. And Pango's all alone on the site. And they have two more players there for the pickup if he fails his task.
Still not able to take Xboth out of his position in Big Pit. So Pango's trapped on site now, just doing his best. And unfortunately, Xboth able to just rotate around, pick up that final kill onto Pango. And University of South Alabama is now up to 13 rounds and that much closer to a map victory.
Looking better and better for USA every round we go, and the money once again not here for Siena. The last time we saw him with the pistols was a Tech 9 rush over onto B, and that did not work out favorably for them. This time, however, Loki running with the AK-47. See if that makes a difference. It certainly will not be a B push this time around, but check out that forward placement by Xboth. A bit patient, finds one, but they don't realize that Crane is there.
What a smart play from Crane, being uncharacteristically aggressive into mid, able to pick up a 3K, ultimately going down to Gray, but not before doing an incredible amount of damage to Siena's attempt at that A site. So now we're back to that position of Siena just sort of trying to catch their breath, taking a moment there. Loki able to pick up Soju, which could be their signal to ultimately try a move over to the B site. Now all the USA players are on A trying to deal with this offensive, but Siena not fully committing to either side or idea yet.
Uh-oh. Siena, well, they were on the site, didn't have control of it fully. Loki, the last one alive. Up in apartments. If he has that angle right, which he does, Xboth puts it down into the dirt. One match away from match point here for USA. Money is a little bit back in play for Siena. See how that plays out.
They've really just got to stop some of that early round bleeding, especially because, Crane has been such a huge player, a name that we've talked about quite a bit in these last two maps. just continuing to wreak havoc on everybody from the Siena side. And when you start a round off, 2 or 3, obviously that's not a great place to be as you're trying to execute on whatever plan you have. So Siena opting a little bit more aggressively towards top mid, this time being a little bit more careful to check their bench position. Gray taking a shot to the head through the smoke where Crane has repositioned. So now Siena is in much deeper to A than they were in previous rounds at this point. So they're going to try for this execute. They're going to try to take this round away and continue working on closing that gap.
Great opener by Loki. Now Loki looking to take it a bit further, and they find that shot and clear out A completely. The last 2 players will have to rotate over from B, and will opt for that banana route, even if they do decide to make a retake. Because even how far they are, doesn't seem that they will have much time to get the job done, and that, in fact, will be the case. Lepizio wants to have a bit more influence in the following rounds. Let's get a shot off with the op. Not enough to get a kill, though.
This is going to be the 12th round for Siena, which means that keeping all 4 of these players alive is critical because they don't have a lot of cushion to spare. So knowing that both of the USA players are in the banana area, they're going to run away, and OCU escapes with 2 HP. That's a great place to be, and finding Lepizio takes away that op. That is a critical play to try to get this next one, although now there's an op right back in Lepizio's hands from the buddy buy. So we go into round 27 thinking Siena's got a chance here.
Absolutely. Absolutely they do, and there's a reason why the previous scoreline was 30-32 last time these 2 teams stepped into the server. We're seeing it unfold. While there was a big advantage over an overpass, Inferno is anyone's game at this point, but it is going to be an A execute. Maybe if they make the full commitment, they get up by arches. There is one player hiding in the smoke. They do get some damage on the nades there. Might tag him a little bit to slow him down as Loki finishes it off. 2 more players holding it down. Crane, though, evens it out. Eye for eye. It's a 3v2, however, on this site. Will be a rotation eventually, maybe, but that should solidify it. Loki finds one. Soju traveling through CT. Looking for another one by arches, and that's bombed down. The only one alive left is Loki. And they're by library. Gonna swing here if they have the angle.
Oh, that's such a disastrous turn of events for Siena. They were in such a great position. And unfortunately, Crane, who's just been that boogeyman all over the map, playing in every position to just continue wreaking havoc, is ultimately the one to open up the floodgates and ultimately spell the demise of Siena. So Loki is doing his best to try to identify where Crane is on site. He's going to see the pixels, and ultimately Crane able to just swing out, take down Loki, and put the 15th round onto USA. And this is game point.
This is match and series point here for USA, and the money is looking fantastic for them. Full util, full buy, AK on a few hands of those players, 3 of them actually, and an op to boot. It should be looking good if they can manage to survive that first round. We've seen how it has been a dangerous situation running through mid lane. Finally, we have a big apartments play. Who's going to be around to stop it? Xbot, the first one to go down. They do actually have another one, but they don't realize that OCU narrowly misses it. Lepizio's got to realize something. They got to make a move, but it's really JaCrispy who's starting it off, running away from Boiler after getting that first pick. And now it's a full-on sandwich of USA. They have to survive, at least survive to buy some time. Ducking behind the boxes, it will finally be the nade that ends it off. 2 players on the site, but here comes Lepizio with the op. No bomb plant yet.
Crane going down, critical player off of the board there, but with only, well, what was 2 players, but much less now. Low-key noticing it, but missing ultimately what's happening. He's trying to just play ring around the rosy. Gets that last bullet kill with Low-key, but Soju there to immediately get the refrag, and that is going to be match point and series point to the University of South Alabama.
A well-earned victory here for University of South Alabama. They may be placed 8th within the leaderboards here at EGFC, but they are certainly not playing like it. 2-0, this squad has proven that they belong in this league, and maybe even in the mid-tier, if not working their way to the higher tier, Viking.
Yeah, it's a great start to the split for the University of South Alabama. With this, they're going to come up to equal rankings with Iona, who we're going to see play later at the end of this. We're going to continue fighting for that position. So it's a pretty impactful win for them to start off with and continue building for. So we're going to kick it to a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to see Lepicio from the USA side to hear just what happened through that series.
Welcome back to EGFC Week 10. Two maps up, two maps down, and University of South Alabama wins it all in a decisive fashion. But it was hard fought, and to tell us about it, we have Lepizio here. Lepizio, how are you feeling after that win?
I'm feeling really great. I, it was what we hoped for, and it's what we got. So I couldn't say I'm happier than now.
That's great to hear. One thing that we noticed as a potential issue, or as an issue, or a concern, I guess, as we've seen a ton of different times across the league, is people kind of struggling on their own map picks. It kind of went the opposite direction this time, with obviously doing an exceptional job on Overpass and Map One. But Inferno seems to be that kind of wild card map for everybody, where all sorts of weird things are going to happen. So can you tell me a little bit about the mentality coming from Overpass into Inferno, and ultimately how you were able to overcome, what was a bit of a deficit for a period there?
Yeah. So on Overpass, obviously we came off of it feeling great. The score line was really in our favor for Overpass. But even before we went to the Inferno match, I was talking with Crane, who is now on the team, but you might remember last season was our coach.
Hmm.
Um, we were talking about it, and the reason we figured that we think everybody prepares Inferno a lot better than any other map. I feel like in almost all these series, you're going to see an Inferno map. So I feel like teams always prepare really well for Inferno.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, we've seen that Maris going up against Colorado, a team that most people would expect to create a pretty imbalanced score line and do very, very well last week. So that's really great. And we noticed Crane, obviously, huge impact player throughout, both maps in different ways. What's that been like to have that transition from coach to player?
It's been great. So we picked him up obviously late last season. He came on as our coach. Of course, that was towards the end of the season, so we were all kind of scrambling to get strats down. Just kind of figure everything out. But at the time, I was the IGL, and this is my first time kind of playing in a league. So I was extremely inexperienced, but Crane had been playing Counter Strike on tournament style teams for a very long time. He had never IGL'd before, but he certainly had more game experience than I did. So I let him completely take over IGL. He runs our strats, tells us what to do. We try and follow him. If he wants a flash, we flash. If we want to flash, he flashes. All around, it's been great having him along.
Great to hear.
And it's been working out for you so far. You're in 8th place in the leaderboard right now, but you're playing like you're on your way up. What's your current outlook on the rest of the split and how your team's feeling as a squad going forward?
I definitely feel like we refined how we play a lot over the split. And coming from number 8, able to beat number 4, obviously we're very happy about that. And we're hoping to continue it through the rest of the season.
It's great to hear. And one last thing, do you have a special shout out that you'd like to give out to anybody after this big win?
Of course, shout out the team, shout out Crane, shout out JaCrispy, shout out Ben, shout out Chris. We're riding.
You're right, and indeed. Thank you so much, Lepizio. And once again, congrats on your win. And that's going to do it for this matchup. Stick around, folks, because our next matchup is going to be a real heater. It's DePaul versus University of Colorado. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with that next match after this.